Menopause can start stealing your bones before you ever miss a period. Women think bone loss is something to worry about at 60 or 55 at the earliest, not while you're still getting regular periods and blaming stiffness and fatigue on stress or sleep. But that's exactly when it often starts. You're in your late 30s or early 40s, and those joints that creak climbing the stairs, the morning stiffness you blame on a bad mattress, or the fatigue you chalk up to a busy life, they're not random. They're signs that your estrogen has already begun to shift. The moment bone loss begins isn't the day menopause arrives. It's right now, in your 40s, possibly even your late 30s, before you miss a single period. And with that hormonal shift, bones are often the first to quietly pay the price. If you've been shrugging off creeping stiffness or aching joints as just age, this is for you. It isn't laziness. It isn't random. It's your body reacting to a hormonal switch you probably didn't even know was flipped. Most women assume bone problems show up decades later. In reality, research shows that around the perimenopause transition, those years leading up to your final period, women can lose up to 20% of their bone mass in just 5 to 7 years. By the time most women find out, it's been happening quietly for years. This isn't because of age alone. It's because estrogen, the hormone that quietly kept bone breakdown in check, begins to decline. Once estrogen drops, bone breakdown speeds up, and your skeleton's savings account is emptied faster than it can be refilled. Estrogen wasn't just a reproductive hormone. It was quietly doing a second job you never knew about, acting as a brake on bone breakdown, every day for decades. Here's the chain in one breath. Estrogen declines, leads to the brake loosens, leads to bone breaks down faster than it rebuilds, density quietly disappears. Think of estrogen like a key that opens tiny safes in your food. When you had plenty of estrogen, those safes, calcium, magnesium, vitamin D, vitamin K, and protein, were unlocked and used. But as estrogen declines, the key turns less effectively. You start swallowing tiny safes with no key. They pass through unopened, and those nutrients never fully reach your bloodstream. If they don't reach your bloodstream, they don't reach your bones. In your 20s and 30s, you might lose about 1% of bone a year. During late perimenopause, that loss can double or even triple, especially in the spine and hips. On the outside, you're still going to work and caring for others. On the inside, the bone bank is being emptied faster than it can be refilled. This is not something that will happen. It's happening every meal, every night of sleep, every morning you wake up stiff. These are the signs many women in their late 30s and early 40s are living with right now and explaining away as something else. That morning stiffness you keep blaming on your pillow, the energy crash that hits faster than it used to, nails that feel thinner or more brittle, a body that recovers slower after a bad night's sleep, weight that shifts even when you're eating the same, a weird fracture from a simple slip that would have been a bruise 20 years ago, a DEXA scan that shows osteopenia or early osteoporosis. These are all whispers that your hormonal landscape has changed. None of this is random. None of this is just age. You're not too young for this. You're just earlier than you expected. It's one system responding to one hormonal shift that started quietly and has been building ever since. Once you recognize it, you can work with your body instead of blaming it. Hearing this can make you panic, but it should actually empower you. You finally know what's been happening. The women who struggle most with bone loss in their 60s aren't always the ones who had the worst estrogen drop. They're the ones who didn't know to act in their 40s when the window was still wide open. You're not that woman anymore. You know now, and knowing now changes everything. They missed the early window. You didn't. You're hearing this now. That changes everything. You're not late. You're early enough for this to matter. I like to think of it as 3 simple steps: stabilize, to stimulate, to sustain. A framework for responding to what you now know. Stabilize means 2 things: feed your bones properly and calm the internal chaos that steals from them. Right now, your bones need raw materials: enough protein, calcium-rich foods, vitamin D, magnesium, and K2. If your bones are already losing hormonal protection, they can't afford to be underfed, and they can't thrive in constant chaos. Give your bones the raw materials they need. You can't rebuild what you don't supply. Second, calm the hormone noise. Chronic stress and poor sleep drive up cortisol, which can increase bone breakdown and make it harder to stick with good habits. A consistent wind-down routine, turning off screens earlier, taking a few deep breaths before bed, and prioritizing sleep are part of stabilizing the environment your bones live in. Stimulate means telling your bones they're still needed. Bones adapt to load. They only stay strong if you give them a clear reason to. Every time you move with intention, you're sending a signal that matters now more than ever. Walking is a start, but add hills or pace to load your hips and spine. Climb stairs or use a low step. Each step sends a small impact into your bones. Use resistance bands or dumbbells for squats, lunges, pushes and pulls 2 or 3 times per week. Practice balance work like single leg stands or gentle yoga. And remember, you don't need to crush yourself in the gym. Your body is starting to quietly downsize strength, muscle, and bone. So you answer back, no, we still need this. We still need strength. We still need structure. Sustain means you build rhythm, not drama. Bones are slow. They don't respond to panic. They respond to what you do again and again. So this is where you keep checking in. You keep moving. You keep protecting sleep, lowering stress, and getting a bone scan when your doctor recommends it. Not because you're trying to be perfect, because your bones are listening to the pattern you repeat. Not with drama, with rhythm. Let's bring it back to where we began. You walked in thinking bone loss was a future problem. You now know it's a present one. And instead of fear, there's power in that. Because the women who protect their bones in their 60s are the ones who paid attention in their 40s. You just became one of those women. Menopause is natural, but fragile bones aren't inevitable. Once you understand that it's the estrogen drop, not just age, that triggers the biggest bone changes, you can work with your body instead of feeling betrayed by it. Stabilize your foundation, stimulate your bones, and sustain it over time. Your bones aren't brittle by default. They've just lost some of the support they once had. Give them new support. Listen to your body. Those subtle stiffnesses and aches might be hormonal whispers. Respond now, and you'll give your skeleton the strength it deserves for decades to come. And if the next thing you're thinking is, maybe I should just start taking calcium, wait until the next video. Because where that calcium ends up in your body depends entirely on one thing most people get completely wrong.